Hello everyone and welcome to episode 3 of Cast 514. My name is Lysla Pergi, also known as Broadcast Storm, and together with me is my friend and co-host, Ben Gruber, also known as Griris. What's up?
Not much, of course. FanFest is getting really close, so I'm really pumped to be going next week, actually, is when I take off for Iceland.
In 9 days, yeah?
Yeah. No, that's when FanFest starts, but I actually leave for my trip, because it's going to take me a while to get there, flying from the other side of the world, pretty much.
You're going over England, right?
Yes, I'm going via, going to stop at Heathrow, then catch a plane to Iceland.
That's great. Well, it's going to take you at least 1 day and a half.
Oh, actually, no, it is only a little bit over a day.
Oh.
In travel time itself. I mean, I've got a long stay over in Heathrow, but that's more by choice than necessity.
Great. Well, in this episode, we have a bunch to talk about. We have free-to-play discussion to talk about. If you didn't know, if you were living under a rock, if you're not following Dust 514 that much, the game is officially free-to-play, which means it is a first ever free-to-play game on PlayStation 3, which is...
Actually, I think it's the first ever free-to-play game on a console.
Exactly, which is awesome. Also, we are going to discuss now, when the game is free-to-play, we're going to discuss microtransactions versus pay-to-win and what people may expect from the game.
This is something that has everybody just divided, and some people are screaming that this is going to be the end of Dust as we know it before it even starts.
Precisely. Also, we did a lot of dissection. You did the dissection of GDC footage, and personally, I wasn't expecting CCP to drop anything on GDC because they were.
No, neither was I.
Yeah, I was expecting them to keep every.
It's nice.
Yeah, every information should be really.
Thing.
Yeah, every information should be really. At least in their minds, I was thinking that they should drop on FanFest. So everything that came to GDC really, really was unexpected to me. So we got a bunch of that stuff to talk about, and we have that blog, which we expected. I was really expecting it, and CCP Commander Wang actually said that it's going to be on Friday, so it wasn't really that much of a surprise to us. Also, we have
nice.
What?
Oh, it was just nice that they gave us some more details on the vehicles, which we'll get to in a bit.
Yeah. Also, we're going to inform you guys what are we going to focus on FanFest when Gurus actually arrives there, and we're going to talk about a little bit more about FanFest in detail. So let's start. So free-to-play game discussion, free-to-play.
So basically, Dust 514 is now free-to-play, which is amazing in a one way because it means that Dust 514 has just opened the doors that much wider to all 60 million or so people who use the PSN. Because before it was you pay $20. I mean, you get it back as credit in the game, but you still have to pay $20.
Yeah.
But now it's free. There's absolutely no barrier to entry besides a download limit, which for most people is irrelevant. So you've just increases the chances for most people to actually at least give this a go. And even if you don't hold on to them all, you're still going to hold on to a lot more than what you would have before.
Precisely.
So this is pretty much one of the best things CCP could have done in this situation. And they said at the time it was confusing in some ways to some people what the deal was. So they just made it simple.
Yeah. And also, it was a little bit funny to me because I know David Reed from Rift and his work in Trine Worlds. And I wasn't really expecting for him to come to CCP and say, well, let's make the game free to play because I
don't know if he was the one who was directly responsible for saying that. It may have been somebody else who decided to make that decision.
Or maybe he was just suggesting that. And Hilma was like, yeah, sure, let's make it free to play. Because essentially the game was to be free to play. With the cover charge, that would... And that's the only difference from the game that we knew with the cover charge and free to play game that we know right now. So... only those $20 or $15 or whatever they were planning to have as a cover charge would not convert to Aurum, the alternative premium, currency.
Yeah, basically the actual money credit inside the game.
And you wouldn't just get that benefit as a head start. No. But you can also choose to buy Aurum straight away when you start playing the game. So
just say, okay, I'm going to start the game. I'm going to buy $20 of credit Aurum, then you're good. It's exactly as it was before.
Precisely.
Now, one little thing that this has actually brought up amongst people, I mean, we had a bit of this before, but now people are really piling on this, and that's the pay-to-win bandwagon. There's a lot of people out there who are very worried that this means that Dust 514 is going to be going full bore towards a pay-to-win model.
Exactly. And the problem with that is the mindset that people still have towards free-to-play games. The reason for that is that usually people don't consider free-to-play games balanced. They don't consider them to be...
As a model, it's immature. It hasn't been around for long. Because, it hasn't been around for long. Nobody tried the business model before because they thought it was absurd. But, of course, look at League of Legends.
Exactly.
I mean, that's literally just pumping cash.
Yeah, there are some games on PC that PlayStation 3 players are not perhaps even aware of. And League of Legends is a perfect example. They're not selling win at any way. They're selling only skins to your champions. They're selling XP boosts. They're selling stuff. If you're lazy. They're selling also champions, but then they're never going to sell you win. You still have to play the game. You have to know to understand the game mechanics. You have to be a good player in order to compete with everyone. And
so basically, it's pay for convenience.
Exactly, and that's what Dust is going to be all about. It's going to be minor tweaks, as Brandon said in his latest. So there's going to be. Post.
They said basically there's going to be some weapons that will be available like that, but they will be side grades, not upgrades of gear that you can already get yourself.
Yeah.
And don't forget, every single piece of equipment can be resold on the open market for ISK, including these microtransaction applicable items.
Yeah, so that means that if a guy actually buys from Aurum the weapon or whatever he wants, and he decides to buy ISK via market to sell that item, the person that didn't put any money into the game can still buy that that Aurum
microtransaction item.
Exactly. And have it for himself. So you're not, gated from those items at any way, because people are going to still want to have ISK as their main currency. And,
because you can't buy everything with Aurum. I mean, you can use Aurum to get something with ISK, but to do that, you're going to have to basically allow those Aurum-only items to get onto the open market.
Yeah, and that's how EVE Online works as well, because if a person actually buys 1 month of game time, which is Plex, he can decide, well, I don't want to use that item and extend my subscription time because I already have, but I want to sell that item to market, and people can take their ISK and buy the amount of game time. Yeah, and that's awesome, because it really creates completely balanced, the environment.
Basically allows. And it allows people who might not be able to pay for EVE to actually play EVE, even though they're not paying for it. And it's balanced because somebody somewhere is paying that bill.
Yeah. So there is not going to be any pay-to-win scenarios as far as we know. Well, so Brandon really was. Yeah,
I know there's some people who still have reservations about the fact that you would possibly have. They mentioned an XP booster, but I don't know what that will be exactly affecting. I'm personally of the opinion that the XP booster will affect any points that you gain through active skilling, which is basically going out in the battlefield and shooting guys or completing objectives, not passive skilling, which is the system they have in EVE. But I could be wrong. It could be passive instead increases, or it could be even both.
Yeah, it could be even both. Yeah, we don't really know that.
I do think it'd be better for it to be active, though, because then the amount of boost you get is dependent on how well you play and how much you play. So you've actually got to put effort in to use that.
Exactly, and knowing CCP, they're going to make those things balanced in terms of you don't just need to sit in your bedroom and sleep and everything is going to be fine in Dust. That's not going to happen anytime, because we know CCP, they're cruel and they want us to work for stuff even if we pay for it. So
and they're definitely, as far as microtransactions, they're not going to be game to try and fight with us again on that after the Incarnate debacle.
Yeah.
that was. I do not think they want to have to ruin the statue on Amar as well.
Nope. they're definitely not going to come back to those things. And EVE Online had that issue where people were up in arms about stuff.
They still were. I mean, they didn't even announce. I mean, there was the Scorpion, but that wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Yeah.
But they still got pretty ruffled up about it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's why CSM exists. That's why players exist. And that's awesome because, it's a player-driven game. And
actually, I might just interject here with a little fun fact. Apparently, there have been more votes for the current CSM. You see, the current CSM elections for CSM 7 are underway at the moment. There have been more people who voted in it than in one of the particular Republican primaries in the US, or two of them, I think it was, actually.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I saw that.
I saw whole tweets about that. And that's kind of mind-blowing to think that more people voted for an internet spaceship politician for a video game than for an actual presidential candidate in the US.
And that's where... EVE is real line.
That's
actually
how serious this game is.
Yeah, it is. And hopefully, Dust is going to be as serious as EVE. Well, not to that scale, but yeah, it really, really is going to be so complex. People that are playing Battlefield and Call of Duty can just forget about those games when they realize the level of complexity in Dust.
I mean, it will be interesting. I mean, this is actually This is actually talking about the vehicle dev blog that they released not too long ago. In the comments on the US version of the PSN blog, the first couple of comments were pretty much all complaining about how complex the vehicle system seemed. And I could not believe that they thought, because it's pretty much the same system for any EVE players. It's pretty much the same system there. They're basically complaining about the capacitor. I mean, how complicated is the capacitor? Come on.
Precisely, and those are small things that make you really really laugh out loud. And but we're EVE players, and when you look at Dust fitting and all this stuff, it's really familiar to you. It really is interesting to see people that never saw EVE Online, look at those images.
I see a lot of the guys who are coming over from MAG, they don't seem to be too phased. Obviously, they've been exposed to EVE Online for a fair bit now, so even though they haven't played it in many cases, they at least get the general gist of many things and they understand some of the things as well. So I guess all people need to do is give it some time and actually learn, which, as hard as it is to imagine people doing these days, is possible.
Yeah. I'm really glad that CCP is working always on a game that makes you think. It's a rare thing nowadays. I can just go to and play Serious Sam and not give a damn.
I must admit, if you had to think too much in Serious Sam, I would be kind of disappointed, because that's a game you go into to just blow stuff up.
Precisely.
That's what it's for, and that is what it's good at, and that's what we thank it for.
Yep, I really love Serious Sam.
Going back, talking about the vehicle dev blog. Basically, for those who haven't seen it yet, you should go see it, because some of the things that they've revealed as far as vehicle mechanics are amazing. Basically, while drop suits are going to be fairly different compared to ships in EVE, vehicles are going to be taking a lot of features from the ships in EVE Online now that you see and basically borrowing them. So, for example, as we already said, the capacitor is making its triumphant return. Yes, your vehicles will have capacitor. And not only that, capacitor warfare. There are actually energy neutralizers and cap boosters. There's electronic warfare, so there's ECM, turret disruptors, tracking disruptors actually is their name, target painters, sensor dampeners. It's all there.
Yep, and for those people that don't know what those things are, it's a way of disabling other person's vehicle, and it's a very intelligent way. It is
overall,
not.
Overall electronic warfare basically messes with other people's stuff. Like, I'll go through it. Basically, the capacitor, for those, unfortunately, the description and the explanation for the capacitor they gave in the blog wasn't the best, so I'll try and explain it a bit better. Basically, what happens is the vehicles have a generator which generates a constant amount of power without needing to be refueled all the time. But what happens is the modules that use this power sometimes need more power in a short burst of time than what the generator can provide. So what happens is the generator actually charges up a capacitor, which is a pool of energy. And when modules need power, they grab energy from the capacitor to do it. So what can happen is sometimes you can be generating more power than what your modules use, In that case, you're capacitor stable, or even capacitor positive, which means your capacitor is charging. But if you do not have, if you're using more capacitor capacity than what your generator generates, eventually your capacitor will deplete, and you cannot activate anything that requires energy from the capacitor.
Exactly.
Until you've recharged it.
And you're pretty much offline for that time. So if your capacitor is completely empty, that means that your shields are going to go offline. That means
not necessarily. Traditionally, shields have not actually required capacitor.
Well, yeah, shield recharges.
A shield booster, which actually increases the amount of shields that you currently have, does require capacitor every time it cycles, and it's actually quite a capacitor-hungry module.
Yep, I was referring to that one.
Yeah,
but it is really, really complex. Complex in terms of.
It's not that it sounds complex, but in practice, it's reasonably simple when you get the hang of it.
Yeah. And also, I would like to see what infantry weapons are going to exist against vehicles. It's going to be really exciting.
I'd actually like to see if because the interesting thing is, so far as we've seen, infantry and the drop suits don't actually have a capacitor.
Yeah.
So, and capacitor warfare, like the energy neutralizer that we talk about, an energy neutralizer basically eliminates a portion of an enemy's capacitor. It just removes it. I mean, there's also NOSs, Nostifos, which drain their capacitor and give it to you, but I haven't seen them yet. Might still make an appearance, but maybe not. But a neutralizer has always traditionally also used up a lot of your own capacitor, meaning that but the thing is that you actually get rid of more of their capacitor than what you use, so you're always in the lead in that instance.
Yeah. So the capacitor thing is really, really awesome, and if you take a look at the mechanic as it is really a vehicle specific thing. You're not going to have that on your drop suit. You're not going to have it in your character. So personally, as I said, I would like to see infantry weapons that are going to
the thing is that not having a capacitor that you have to draw off with your own weapons, if you're going to be energy neutralizing with an infantry drop suit, it kind of breaks the whole balance of it, where, like I was saying, you've got to use your own capacitor to get rid of their capacitor. I don't know what the balance implications with that would be. Maybe it would actually have a cooldown, or it would be a much lesser version and doesn't suck that much capacity, meaning you might need 3 or 4 guys to be actually doing some damage.
Precisely.
To that capacitor.
For example, a rocket launcher that's just EM damage and just reduces capacitor to some time.
Like a void bomb.
Yeah, like a void bomb.
Yeah, all right, well, that could work.
Yeah.
But an over time, continuous drain, like an actual neutralizer, maybe not on infantry.
And, for example, they can implement, so you need to kill that guy that shot you in order to, get your capacitor up. So,
Yeah, I could definitely see things like energy neutralization grenades or an energy neutralization warhead in rockets or something like that. That I can see.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
Precisely.
Now, the other types of electronic warfare that we're talking about briefly, I'll go through them so that people know what they are. There was a brief explanation of some of these in the first vehicle dev blog, but for those who didn't see it, I'll go through it. Tracking disruptors, basically, as the name implies, disrupt tracking. In EVE, what they do is they make your turrets track slower, and they also reduce your optimal range on your turrets. Now, exactly how that's going to figure back into Dust, I'm guessing that is going to decrease the rate at which you can turn your turret, possibly, and it might also decrease your accuracy and your damage over distance.
Yeah. We saw some of the screenshots and the gameplay video from GDC. We saw vehicle combat. And the targeting. Was it vehicle,
It wasn't really, no. From GDC, there was a brief moment where we saw somebody piloting a dropship, and then there was a brief moment where we saw somebody piloting either a heavier assault vehicle or a turret.
Yeah, that's one. That's the one.
We didn't really see anything. I mean, we just saw it shoot a couple of rounds at somebody. So that's really all we saw, unfortunately.
So the thing about the turrets is you really cannot aim precisely with them if you don't really have any skills that they require, and also those weapons may disrupt your targeting and stuff like that. So also from GDC and previous gameplay videos, we saw a little bit we didn't really see that huge of a maps in terms of scale, just pure scale. So,
unfortunately, due to the limitations probably in the rendering engine, or because of the particular direction and the terrain around it, we haven't actually been able to see long vistas, I should say, basically long viewpoints from a lookout position.
Yeah.
And But if you do notice in the analysis I had, the dissection of the GTC video, you could see that there was one particular was a spawn screen. Now, if you remember the facility, it only took up a small portion of it, and the rest of it was blocked out red. Now, I'm guessing in that instance, that's because that was a death match in inverted commas mode, and thus it used a smaller map area to keep combat more focused. But in a big game where you're actually fighting for something for another player or your own stuff, you would actually use that full space depending on the facility you're attacking.
Yeah, and also people forget about demo that was in 2009.
Oh yeah,
that demo was insane because map on that demo was
very large.
I've never seen that huge map. Well, after Battlefield 3, I saw a little bit bigger maps. Yeah. But yeah, obviously, at that time, I was impressed how big over the maps can be, and also I'm really hoping for a lot more modes for the game.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure some Planet Side people. Veterans are going to be sitting there scoffing, saying, "You think that was big? Huh, you should see what we've got."
Yeah, I've actually played PlanetSide 1, and I was really, really glad that I experienced that part of the game. That game back in the day, because not many people actually played PlanetSide, and I'm really looking forward to PlanetSide 2. But Dust and PlanetSide 2...
that's another topic.
Yeah, it is really...
As much as I'm also looking forward to seeing what PlanetSide 2 is like, that's another topic.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll... Yeah. Anyway, so going back to our electronic warfare.
Oh, yeah.
What was next? We had target painters. Yes. Basically, target painters in EVE, they increase the signature radius of the target you're shooting at. That's basically makes it easier to hit, especially if it's a smaller target. So this is something that a battleship, for instance, would use against a frigate.
Yeah.
Now, in Dust 514, I am seeing this being used basically in conjunction with missiles, which is what they're usually also used with in EVE as well, to either allow you to lock on out of line of sight or make it more accurate or do more damage or something along the lines of that. Might also help with targeting with other weapon systems. Now, actually, this is an interesting one I'll touch on now before we go much further. Mm-hmm. Some of the modules, basically what happens in EVE is you have to actually target an enemy before you can start using any modules on them.
Yep.
Now, this doesn't really carry over as well to Dust 514 because it's a first-person shooter where you actually manually aim all your weapons and such. But the thing is that from what it sounds like in the vehicle dev blog, you do actually lock on to enemies. Mm-hmm. Now, so far as I can guess and tell and speculate, this is the way I see it happening. For your normal guns on your vehicle and just your normal guns in general, you aim those as normal. They're affected by things like tracking disruptors, but you aim them as normal. Even if you're jammed, you can aim them as normal. Yeah. You might be distorted, but you can aim them. Now, things such as your electronic warfare or your logistics modules or anything like that requires a lock on the vehicle or whatever your target is in order to use. So, for instance, in the example they use, which is a dropship basically energy neutralizing a marauder, the dropship would have to come near, lock onto the marauder, and then activate the energy neutralizer and maintain that lock. Now, this actually does have a benefit in a way because it means you don't need to micromanage your targeting of whatever you're using your module on and allows you to instead concentrate. So, for instance, say your tank has a tracking disruptor. Yeah. You can lock it onto an enemy tank, set it off, and then you can focus completely on shooting them with your main gun. You don't have to worry about keeping the tracking disrupting up. You might need to keep an eye on your capacitor, but for the most part, it's completely automated. So I actually think this is a good thing, as long as it works in a fashion similar to what I described. Missiles might also require locks. They might also be able to fire without a lock, but then they're just unguided. But this is a bit of speculation on my part, because I know a lot of people were worried about the potential that you might have to target somebody before you can shoot them.
No, it's not going to work that way because
I don't think it would either.
Nah, it's really unnecessary feature, and it's a first-person shooter, so people really want to shoot people in the face, and
it makes sense in EVE, but not so much in Dust. If the same way.
It's really not that big. Also. What else
do we have?
We've seen. I personally saw in GDC video. You said the rocket launcher guy.
Yeah, there was a rocket launcher guy. Basically, there was a guy with a swarm launcher. It was funny because who was it? Somebody commented somewhere. I can't remember who it was. It may have been one of the devs that was visiting us on the Dust 514 channel in game basically commented that they can lock on, but they're terribly inaccurate if you don't lock them on, and they just go everywhere.
I've seen it,
which is exactly what we saw in the GTC video. A guy shooting off 8 missiles from 2 different shots.
I've laughed so much.
Hitting nothing.
Yeah.
And there was another one. Next time we see him, if you remember the pistol sequence where he had the pistol, there was a guy who shot the guy with the pistol with another one of these swarm. They're called Wakumi swarm launchers.
Yeah.
He shot him with a swarm launcher, and it must have been only 1 or so of the missiles hitting him directly. It only took his shields down to 33%.
Yeah.
Mind you, I think this guy was in a scout suit, and then he proceeded to kill him back with the pistol. So it might be, I don't know, in that instance, that missile might really need a lock to be effective.
Yeah. And also, we've seen rocket launchers with multiple rockets shooting before. We've seen it in...
Yeah, that was in the Eve Forever trailer, wasn't it?
Yeah, a Future Vision, exactly. We've seen that, the guy shooting a turret with 4 rockets, I think.
Yeah, that was exactly the same. That's probably the same weapon.
Yeah, exactly.
Well worked on.
And that proves that trailer is not really a CGI. That's a gameplay.
Well, I think there's probably there's definitely some CGI thrown in there.
There is, obviously, but they're trying to put a lot of gameplay features. So if you see the turret in a trailer, it really exists like that.
Actually, we saw that turret again. I'm pretty sure, or a very similar one to it. If you take a look, I think it's one of the later images in the dissection.
Yeah,
where I basically point out the turrets and all the other structures that they've got there up in the top right-hand corner. I'm pretty sure it's similar. It's not quite the same. It's wide. It's got a wider base, and it's a bit thicker. But the actual gun itself looks very similar, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually the current iteration of that same turret.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also mentioning turrets and automated stuff, we've found out that there are going to be bots in the game.
Yes,
So
this is going to be. We might finish off the electronic warfare. We've got 2 more to get through, and then we'll talk about bots.
Oh, we do?
Yeah. We have 2 more because we've got sensor dampening and we've got ECM itself.
Oh, yeah, sensor dampening.
So sensor dampening, we'll keep going. Sensor dampening, basically what it does is it increases your lock time, and it decreases your maximum targeting range. Now, at the moment, this is kind of underpowered and Eve at the moment, but in Dust 514, it might be all right. See, locking onto a target actually takes time. So in Dust 514, I can actually see it working exactly the same way. You would reduce the maximum targeting range that your vehicle has, and it also increases the time for your vehicle to lock something else. So this might be good if you're working with a vehicle at very long range, or you're trying to basically skip through. Because the next one I was going to talk about, ECM, what it does is, in Eve at least, it actually completely removes your ability to target.
Yeah.
Meaning that for the most part, you can't use any of your weapons. There's a couple of weapons and systems that still work without a target, like friend or foe missiles or drones, if you've got them tasked, or smart bombs work without a target, but they're limited in their usefulness compared to your primary weapons. But I don't know exactly how it's going to work in Dust. It might be the case that it prevents you from locking entirely. That might scramble your HUD and other bits, but I don't think it'd completely black you out or prevent you from firing at all. Yeah.
It just
doesn't seem right.
It sounds something like the later on as you progress through the game, maybe some of those things are going to work like that. But for starters, I really doubt that those weapons are going to work like that because
I don't know, maybe. Anyway, the difference between the two is with ECM, it's chance-based whether or not the effect will go off. So, for instance, ECM is good it's good if you've got the numbers, really, and it allows you to completely lock down a target in Eve. And it will probably help you to lock down a target in Dust 514 to a certain degree. But sensor dampeners always work, as it says on the tin. So will always increase their locking time, always decrease their maximum targeting range. So it's good for when you know you're going to be sitting in those bits. Like if you're a quick vehicle and you're just popping in and out of cover and you're able to break their target lock between shots, basically, you can make it so that they can theoretically never target you so long as you keep popping in and out with a sensor dampener. With ECM, though, it would be chance-based whether or not they'll be able to get it. And if they get it off, you might be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Now, one last one I might mention, just because it's a very important one in EVE. We have seen some mentions of it, but we haven't specifically seen it mentioned for vehicles, is a stasis web of fire, which basically slows down whatever is targeted. It's used in EVE to help catch really fast ships, and just any ship really, keeping it immobile. And in Dust 5.4, I'd see it having the same use. Now, like I said, though, we haven't actually seen CCP say that stasis web of fires will be for vehicles, but we have seen them say that there would be stasis web of fire grenades and stasis web of fires in general available to infantry.
Which pretty much slows infantry for a specific time.
It basically slows anybody in the radius. Yeah. I don't know. I think it was Chrono Trigger or Time Slows. There's a game like that where you could basically control time. Fast forward, rewind.
Time shift.
Time shifter, maybe, basically. Yeah. And what happened is, instead of giving players that type of control in multiplayer, what they did was they gave you grenades that you could throw that would slow everything down in its radius.
Yeah.
So it's kind of similar to that if you've played that game.
Yeah, it's really all those things are actually just showing how much of a choice you have you're going to have in Dust.
Oh yeah,
you can just decide not to use,
you can decide not to use any of it.
And
you could just instead bolster your defense or your offense or something else, because they take module slots.
Yeah, if you want to shoot your autocannon into drop ships, as we saw that video, you can do that. You feel free to do it. It's really up to you what you want to specialize in and what you want to do on the battlefield.
What I'd really like to see is the effect that if you manage to hit a dropship with a stasis web of fire grenade, I'd like to see what happened there. Whether it actually drop out of the sky, or it would just hover slowly, making it
probably just hover slowly. I wouldn't like to see it.
Well, still on the topic of electronic warfare, I might just also disclose to people, each of the 4 different races actually has a particular disposition towards certain electronic warfare.
Yeah.
So, for example, the Amar really like their tracking disruptors and their energy neutralizers. The Galante fire basically sense dampeners, and they're also... while it's not going to have as much, I don't think it'd have any use in Dust 5 and 4, but it's there as well. They're also warp scramblers, which are used in EVE Online to stop you from warping off. The Caldari are ECM, and I don't know if they particularly have a secondary.
Not really
I don't think they do.
No, they don't.
No, and the Minmatar are target painting and stasis webifying for the most part.
Yeah,
that's kind of shared with the Galante.
Yeah, and as you can see, all those races are really specific, have a specific type of combat. So all those things really, all those weapons and their specific ways of dealing with the enemy really explain how you are going to fight if you want to go into that role. I'm Galenta and I want to use all the Galenta stuff.
Yeah. So the thing is, it kind of means that when you pick your hull, it's in some cases, like for example, the Force Recon dropship actually has a bonus to sensor dampeners.
Yeah.
So in that case, you've got to be more inclined to use that type of ship if you're using sensor dampeners, or if you're using that ship fitting sensor dampeners. While if we haven't seen it yet, but you might have an Amar Force Recon ship that has a bonus to energy neutralizers, which you'd use if you wanted to use energy neutralizers potentially.
Also,
it doesn't lock you in, but it does give you a bonus if you keep along that line.
Yeah, and we're also seeing a dropship with cloaking device.
Yes.
And
that is actually awesome. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think they mentioned that. If I'm just going to bring it up here, I think there was something about the ability to reveal some. Oh, here we go. Yes. That's right. They've actually got in the description for the Force Recon dropship, basically how many cloaked enemies are waiting in ambush near that upcoming objective. Send in a Force Recon dropship to get the job done. So maybe there will actually be. I know people have talked about cloaking and how it can be overpowered sometimes. Maybe there will be a module that'll allow you to. And I know a lot of people in EVE are going to be jealous that Dust is getting this first. A module that will actually reveal cloaked enemies nearby.
Yeah, and also I can already imagine the skills that require for that, and increasing the range of the module itself to detect in a wider range and stuff like that. So it really makes sense for Dust. For EVE, I'm not really sure because cloaking works fine, I think, in EVE. So
cloaking works. It's a bit hard because there's so much space. I mean, there are ways to decloak people, and that's move within 2 kilometers of them, but there is so much space available in EVE that you can easily move into an area, and because it is so big, the odds of somebody actually running into you are slim to none,
yep.
especially if you're in the middle of space, nowhere near any sort of celestial. The chances of them finding you, well, let's say you would have won the lottery several times while being struck by lightning before that happens.
Yeah, and in Dust really, I can expect to see it working a little bit, not to be so overpowered. Well,
it's a bit different.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the vehicles themselves. Now, we mentioned that was the Force Recon dropship, but I'll just give you a quick spiel on the two new vehicles that they revealed.
Yep.
There was the Marauder heavy attack vehicle, which is a heavy attack vehicle, but it's a Marauder class.
Which CCP Praetorian mentioned.
Yes, in Cast 514, Episode 1, which is probably why they've got it here, to be quite honest. The Syria.
Mm-hmm.
Now, interesting thing is, for those who remember, for those EVE players who have heard about them, the Marauder class, it looks like, in general it seems to be, can actually fit siege modules. So EVE players, of course, will probably know what I'm talking about. But for those who don't, a siege module in EVE, at least, basically works on a dreadnought, which is a capital ship. What it does is it makes the capital ship immobile. It makes it unable to receive remote repairs. It increases its own local defense capabilities. And it ridiculously magnifies its attack power. So this is, I think, what it is, an 800% bonus? Or something like that.
Yeah,
Some ridiculous number. It increases the amount of damage it does.
Full fortification mode.
Yeah, basically, it's for used to attack structures and other capitals and things like that with massive amounts of HP. And they can get a lot of power out of that. Of course, it makes them vulnerable because they can't move and they can't be repaired by any friendly forces. And at this stage, I'm actually kind of seeing a similar sort of role for Marauders. Basically, if you've played StarCraft or StarCraft 2, you'd know, of course, about the siege tank.
Yeah.
This is what I'm thinking. It'd be very similar, except without that being able to be repaired while deployed.
Yeah.
But we don't know on that. Maybe.
Perhaps. Yeah, it really reminded me of StarCraft as well. But I'm wondering because CCP Commander Wang actually commented on the dev blog, and he said that perhaps we're not going to see this destructible environment in Dust as when the game ships. So we're not going to see destructible environment, but still those tanks are going to. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Basically, what he said was it's a question about memory, because they've got to work within the memory that the PS3 has, and if they can fit it, then maybe they will. I don't know. Maybe they've got a working model right now. And it actually can work, but it's just a question of memory budget.
Or perhaps it's going to be specific to some battlefields, to some modes, and not to some others.
I honestly don't think they'd do that, because that might create too much of a difference between the two, and it might make it a bit hard to keep it balanced in the same game. I think they'd probably go either everywhere can have destructible terrain, or everywhere can't.
Yeah, perhaps that. Well, yeah, I'm just referring to some battlefields in. Battlegrounds, actually, in World of Warcraft, where you have specific things that you can destroy for objective, and they're destructible environment in that sense, but nothing else is destructible.
Well, well, fair enough. In that type of context, I can see what you're saying, and that I can definitely see strategically placed items, but the thing is that with randomly generated maps, I don't know how well it would work, because in World of Warcraft, for instance, the maps are pretty definitive. They're not being regenerated all the time.
Yeah.
And that's all part of the balance of the map.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting to see that all those battlefields are going to be, generated on the fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the other ship that we had, as I touched on this before, it's a Force Recon ship called an Eryx. Basically, it gets a bonus to sense dampers, as I said. It gets a bonus to sight range, and like you said, it can use a cloak, which means it can move invisible.
Can move invisible with 6 people in it.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it's got a crew of 6, so it might be the case that it's pilot plus 5 other guys. Or it might be because if in the GDC video we saw that the other dropship they had, it looked like a Caldari one.
Yeah.
Might be just your stock standard dropship. It could actually carry 7 people, including the pilot. So that's 6 passengers and a pilot.
Yeah, it looked like on the small graphic thingy. It really showed 3 crew members, and pilot wasn't even on the indicator. So yeah.
No, the pilot was there. It was 7 dots on there.
Oh, there were 7.
There were 7. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't see the front one then. So yeah, we really are looking forward to see some of the cloaking action as well.
I'd like to see the dynamics come together and see how it works, because this definitely makes for an interesting type of gameplay. I mean, in most games, you pretty much shoot somebody or you don't shoot somebody. There's not really much in between. I mean, in Battlefield, for instance, you've got the ability to repair vehicles on the fly with your engineer class. But for the most part, it's really a question of shoot them or shoot them.
Yep.
But this gives you a whole lot of new stuff to play with on the side. Like we said, energy neutralizers, you got your tracking disruptors, which means if you're in a light vehicle like an LAV just running around with a big gun on the back, you could tracking disrupt a tank and just run circles around it, and it wouldn't be able to hit you as easily.
Yeah, and in Battlefield specifically, most of the people actually destroy their vehicles instead of repairing them. So it's so easy to get another one. So yeah,
actually, I'm surprisingly not guilty of that, except for this one time that I think I bailed from a jet because it had like 10 health left and it was already basically dying. Unfortunately, they removed the ability in Battlefield 3 to repair jets like you used to be able in Battlefield 2, just flying over the airfield.
Yeah,
but yeah.
So, yeah, we really looking forward to all those things that are mentioned in the blog and GTC video.
I will definitely have a lot to report. I'm hoping to get the groups of all the vehicles I can at FanFest and report back to you guys and how they feel, and especially the MCC, because that's going to be a whole kettle of fish, different.
I'm not really sure if they're going to give anyone to pilot MCC.
I don't know if they'll let them do it in matches, but they're certainly going to show it off. I reckon they'll show it off in some capacity. Yeah, so we will see what it's like. And I don't know. Maybe I'll have to ask some of the CCP devs there very kindly if I can do it on behalf of Base and Cast 514, just to get some info out to you guys.
Yeah. Also, keep in mind that when you start playing the game, you're going to try to get as much info as possible, and you're not even going to get 10%
I'm going to see if I can take a beard camera with me, which is basically a fake beard with a camera in it, and I'm going to play the game by looking at it with my beard while live streaming.
Yeah, there you go.
I can't promise anything, but I'll try.
Yeah. CCP, I hope you're not listening. CCP,
no, CCP, you did not just hear what my scheme is.
Yeah. If you see a Australian guy in Harper Convention Center with a fake beard, he's not going to do anything wrong. Trust us.
No. Trust us.
Yeah.
We're professionals.
Yeah. Also, next.
So that was all about vehicles. Now, as you mentioned before, bots. Oh, this is an interesting point of contention. Now, there was a Game Informer article that came out not too long ago after the game trailers video with the interview with CCP, and just tucked away inconspicuously at the end of the article was a mention that there's going to be bots, and it was quite just out of the blue. There'd be no hint at all that bots were going to be part of it. And most of us had actually completely dismissed the possibility. Personally I had.
Yep.
So this coming out of left field, and I'll quote here actually, I've got it open. Teamwork-minded gamers can also upgrade their characters and hone their skills by engaging in horde mode-like battles against AI-controlled enemies.
That's just the screaming training mode to me.
I mean, it does also scream training mode to me, but considering the amount of fun that the devs had with their zombie tournaments that they invented, if you remember from Cast 514 Episode 1.
Killeno.
Yes, Killeno.
He was actually making appearance in GDC video. Did you see that?
Yeah, he did actually. I saw him a couple of times. He's actually the guy. If you remember how I was talking about the guy with the pistol that didn't get killed by the swarm launcher, that was Eno.
Yeah, I know.
If you see somebody running around with the swarm launcher or with the pistol, chances are you're looking through Eno's eyes. So he's also the guy that gets, I'm pretty sure he's also the guy that gets killed by the auto. He's the guy we see the death screen of.
Yep.
So thank you very much, Eno, for dying for us.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it looks awesome. Dying screen looks awesome. But yeah, mentioning bots, I'm personally thinking that outside of training mode, which is somehow officially confirmed, to my eyes at least, well, obviously it's not confirmed by CCP, but yeah.
I'm a bit iffy about seeing bots outside of training mode, although to be honest, there is kind of some justification. If we see bots out of training mode, this will probably be the equivalent of what we see for PvE in EVE, where you're basically fighting against NPC rats.
Specifically drones. Because I'm always thinking...
I mean, of the pirate factions or any of the actual factions that you go and fight against in a mission.
Yeah, obviously, but I'm thinking that they're not going to implement bots in terms of if they are going to look like players, you know.
No.
I'm thinking about some sort of missions that, you know, are in a high sec or something like that, and they're not really that much important. So they just put in a bunch of drones. They're moving around, killing stuff, and you know you need to eliminate them, and that's a small.
Personal hope. My personal hope is to either you're versing, if they're going to have them in for a mode like that outside of training mode, either you're versing real players and exclusively real players on both teams, or it's you and maybe 4 or 6 or just a small bunch of you, or maybe even large bunches. It'd be interesting to see a full team of 24, 30 people taking on goodness knows how many drones or hordes or Sanchez zombies or whatever they can throw at you. It'd be interesting to see that on a massive scale, because actually, if you think back, all the horde modes that you've played, what is the maximum player count? Think about it.
What was it?
The highest I can think of is 4 players.
4 players, yeah, pretty much. And I'm always thinking Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, Left 4 Dead, 4 players.
Yeah.
If you look at Halo 3 ODST, was the first one in the series to include a firefight mode, which is similar, 4 players max. If you look at, let's see, Gears of War was one of the first ones that had it. I'm pretty sure it's 4 players max from memory, although it could be less, or maybe even single player. I don't remember. What else was there? There've been plenty of other games that have had similar things like that. Mass Effect 3, for instance, has a similar mode, and that's 4 players max.
And personally, I see the herd mode as a good way to test your fit, to test your weapons, to test your skills, but to test your tactics specifically.
Well, it kind of depending on. I mean, you can actually. I mean, for that, if you've got enough people, you can actually test it against other players, and that would be the best experience, because then they would be actually able to react to you in a more organic fashion, like another player would. Of course, you don't tell them the plans, but...
Yeah, it would be awesome to actually, even inside of your own corporation, to issue, for example, a sparring arena or something like that, and you just...
you could do that in trading mode. Just do it yourself. Both parties give the ISK to somebody else in the corp, they have a fight out, and then whoever wins get the ISK.
Yeah.
Simple. I mean, there's actually businesses built on doing similar things in EVE, where there's a third party that holds the items or ISK or whatever until both parties agree to go through the trade.
Exactly. And also you have, in EVE Online, you have billions of rookie ship battles constantly. So
it's really basically grab from somebody else's can and see what happens.
Yeah, it's really, really, really fun activity. But bots are going to be really interesting to keep an eye on.
What would you like to see CCP do with bots? What would you really like to see them do?
I would really love to see them do some PvE stuff with them. I'm not really sure how, but maybe I'm going to grow tired of fighting against people. It really sounds strange, but personally, I would like to see some sort of PvE.
Well, you can never not be fighting against people. That's the thing, because if you remember, EVE actually stands for everyone versus everyone. I mean, it doesn't, but that's what a lot of people say.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much right. Everyone versus everyone.
But bots personally, if they're not going to be part of PvE or any way of making ISK and just practicing, I'm not gonna use them that much. I'm just gonna play the game by myself and in the cooperation that we're gonna make, and ignore them for most of the time. I am really adamant about not wanting to see bots in any sort of player versus player environment. Yeah. So if there is even one player on the enemy team, I don't want to see bots on it. No.
Except in training. Training mode is fine. Training mode, you can do whatever the hell you want, because it doesn't, as long as it doesn't actually have any effect back in the actual, inverted commas, real world. Because, of course, as everybody knows, EVE is real. Yeah. As long as it doesn't affect there, you can do whatever you want in training mode. But in the actual combat of Dust 5 and 4, I don't want to see a bot on the same team as a player.
No. That's not going to probably happen. Also, that's one of those things that you're going to hopefully focus on FanFest and finding out how they're going to, implement those things. And hopefully there are going to be more than one panels for Dust exclusively and explaining in detail some of the game mechanics. And FanFest is the only thing that really is going to bring a lot of light into...
Yeah, it's going to shed a lot of light on Dust 514. And hopefully this is the point where people can stop saying, I'm worried about this particular feature because I don't know. I really hope that after FanFest, nobody can say, I don't know about this feature, or at least they can't say it and not have somewhere they can find out about it, and such also, as Dust 514 Base.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to reactions from CSM, because personally, they are. I've listened to CSM debate on Eve Radio with Mitani and Riberini, and they were. It was it was hilarious. It was really their stance on Dust is really still up in air. You know, in terms of we want to see the game, we want to see how it plays and how it's going to be integrated into Eve, and then we're going to. Take stabs at it. Just maybe talk with CCP about the game, but they are still skeptical about Dust.
Yeah,
and
that actually reminds me of something. If you remember, some Eve players, you may have remembered the Incursion, the dev blog that went out around Incursions with an interview with CCP Soundwave, and he said with Incursions, the worst thing about a game feature that can happen is if you have players that just don't care about it. You want people to either love it or hate it. But if people don't care about it, it's terrible. And at the moment, there's a lot of people who don't care about Dust. That's hopefully going to be changed post-FanFest. That's what I really want to see.
Yeah, but most of those people are EVE players, and those EVE players are hardcore EVE players. They're not going to have time to play Dust at all. They're going to lead their alliances.
They might not have time to play Dust, but they certainly are going to have to care about it. And if they don't have to care about Dust at all, if the changes that Dust brings within EVE make it so that they don't have to care about it at all, then I think that CCP has some more work to do.
Yeah. Hopefully, when the game ships, it's going to have enough incentive for people to play Dust, and make the impact to the space itself, to planets, to stuff like that. And also, we're slowly coming to the topic of sovereignty, but we're not going to talk about it because we have no idea how that's going to play into planets.
Yeah, and hopefully. That is a massive killer fish, and I know that there are probably several nullsec. If all of them should be watching it, but I know that there's several nullsec blocks that are carefully watching to see what happens there, because this could turn all of nullsec politics on its head because of the changes it makes in the metagame, or changes it makes possible in the metagame. I mean, I saw recently there was a recent Sissy data dump that actually had an interesting module called a micro jump drive, and the implication of that on the metagame would be massive in and of itself. But adding Dust, all of that, and its potential for its effect on sovereignty would just tip it on its head for a while. EVE players, though, are very good at working at metagames, so I'm sure they would be confuddled for a little while and then be on their way again.
Yeah, I'm also glad that it's all those things are going to be revealed at FanFest, because 90% of those players that come to FanFest are going to 100% of those players that come to FanFest are going to be EVE Online players, and they're going to understand all those things a little bit more, in detail. And when CCP tells, you have cloaking device, you have webs, you have stuff like that.
You have resistances. Yeah, resistances. How many people out there? I want in the comments people who have not played EVE Online, that have the PS3 players that haven't really heard much about EVE or played EVE. I want you to tell me whether or not you understand the concept of resistances right now without going and looking it up. If you don't understand, I recommend you go look it up or somehow work it out, or ask somebody else, such as us in IRC or in game if you do play EVE, but then you really should know resistances. But IRC is a good option. Tell us, do you know what the whole concept of resistances? That's what I want to hear from you guys.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that EVE Online players are going to listen to it, because they're just going to... maybe some people can say, well, that's going to be overpowered, and that stuff is going to be strange. They can get some cool feedback from people that are planning to play Dust and that understand all those mechanics. And that's great. Yeah. Because I'm not really... personally, I like to hear opinion from Battlefield, Call of Duty, and all those games, MAG specifically, yeah. And I'm really looking to those feedbacks as well. But to understand how Dust is going to work, you really have to play Eve. And,
to understand how Dust is going to work in large, so inside a match, those games are probably quite good for feedback.
Yeah.
People from those games are very good for feedback, if not better than Eve players, especially people who haven't played an FPS game since Wolfenstein, which is a long time ago for anybody who doesn't know what that game is, like ancient long time ago. But for the outside of the match, in the bigger picture, Eve players are probably going to be the best people to talk to and get feedback from for that, because they know what it's like in this universe, because it is not kind, and there is not a learning curve into this game.
Yeah.
There's a learning cliff, literally a cliff. Like, there's a very often thrown around image of basically the skill levels required to keep progressing in certain games, and it just goes up a little bit for most MMOs, and then Eve pretty much just goes straight up.
Yep.
After just beginning at a really high slope, and it actually almost goes back on itself, and look it up at some point. You'll probably be able to find it if you search for Eve Learning Cliff. We might even link it in the comments.
Yeah,
but it certainly gives you an indication of just how crazy the world of Eve is.
Yeah, a long time ago I posted that picture.
Actually you did. I remember that now.
Post, yeah, I posted the image what you can do in Eve. That huge chart. And I also posted the learning curve, so yeah. It's
yes.
So you're going to FanFest, and
I'm going to FanFest.
You're going to focus on things that you can focus on.
I am going to FanFest as a representative of all you guys out there listening, and probably a lot of guys that aren't listening but following along with what we do.
Yeah.
I'm going there to take your concerns, your questions. Remember, if you haven't got your questions in, get them in as soon as possible, because I'm going to start going through and editing them and getting rid of duplicates and things like that soon, and getting a finalized list to take with me to FanFest.
Yeah.
So get them in. I will try and link this and that post in the comments as well, so you can add those if you've lost the link.
Yeah. I'm just going to include that as well in a post of cost. Also, you're going to take a lot of pictures.
Oh, I hope so.
And we will post the specific gallery from there. So
I'm hoping I can also interrogate a lot of the devs on the pub crawl.
Oh yeah.
Yes, on the pub crawl.
That's a perfect time, because they're going to be semi-drunk.
Their capacitors are probably going to be empty at the time, and they're not going to be able to use their shield boosters or their hardeners to keep their defenses up.
Yep, and you can just take away all the information that you can.
I'll loot them for all their information.
Also,
although if they don't talk, I might have to start threatening to break toes, but not fingers. They need those.
Yeah.
It's very important that if anybody going to FanFest, make sure you do not damage any developer's fingers, because they need those to program or draw art or design game features. Toes are fine, though.
Toes are fine. For some people.
For all of them. I don't think I can think of any developer who needs their toes to actually do their work.
Who knows? It's CCP. They're crazy.
Oh. Yeah, they are. They are a bunch of mad Vikings creating a spaceship game.
Yep. And also, very important thing, on Twitter.
Oh, yes.
The guy named Hilma, CEO of CCP, is, well, if you remember, the post about D514 S153.
Yeah.
He tweeted, and he mentioned you. That was direct response to your tweet,
that was
right?
a response to me asking when the beta starts, which we now know is to be in April. But somebody else reposted it recently to remind him that we are watching out. At first, we thought that this was a reference to the 15th of March, which is 15th of the 3rd, which is the 153. We didn't know what the S was for, and we just assumed that D514 is about S14. However, recently, he responded to that saying, it's not a date, it's ASCII codes.
Yep.
Let me just find the exact tweet. Yeah, I was thinking ASCII codes, not dates, was his reply. So we're actually hoping that we started looking at it for a little while before we started this episode, but if anybody out there can get any sort of progress on what it could possibly be, leave it in the comments or come check us out on IRC and share what you've got, because if we can find some sort of secret thing in there, we might be able to get some more info on Dust before FanFest.
Yeah, and also it may be trolling, but personally, I don't really. I think that Hilmar actually planned that. If he tweeted specific numbers like that and saying afterwards it's ASCII code, it really has something to do with Dust. And if you really have any clue, anything, we will link the tweet itself, the original tweet, obviously, because you need to just know that it's ASCII code and nothing else. So S153 or 153 is the code that has something to do with Dust. So hit us up at IRC and hopefully
we'll be able to crack it.
Yeah.
Who knows, this might become the next Da Vinci Code if we don't get this done.
Yeah. Also, recently, yesterday, I've made a specific page on base, on dust514base.com, where you can click the chat tab button thingy, and it will lead you directly to the chat on coldfront.net. You just need to change your nickname to whichever you want, and you will be straight away joining the Dust 514 channel. I am 24 hours a day on that channel. Gross as well, so we are there.
Pretty much. Between my phone, my laptop, and my PC, exactly. I'll always be there. Might not be awake, but I'll be logging at least.
Yeah. Also, there are some CCP devs there. There's CCP Affinity.
Occasionally drop it. Yep.
Yeah.
CCP Digress Idols in there. I haven't actually seen him say much more than about 2 lines when he first joined, but he's there.
Yeah.
Actually, CCP Affinity is there right now, I'm pretty sure, actually.
Yeah, she is right now.
Yeah, right now she's in the channel.
Yeah, and that's awesome because we know that CCP is somehow watching. Some of the CCP,
they're always watching.
Some of the CCP devs really like IRC, and that's really understandable because they're old school.
Guys, please don't pester either of those 2 developers specifically for information on Dust 514 because they both work on EVE Online instead.
CCP Affinity doesn't really have anything to do with Dust. Yeah. She is Q&A team.
No, she's not QA anymore. She's doing work on PvE content now. She's doing work in game design. So she's designing all the new complexes that went out in Crucible 1.5. Actually, going out in Crucible 1.5. That's actually not out yet.
Yeah, and still, she doesn't really know anything about Dust. So if she knows the release date, we know the release date. So
she did actually play Dust. She has actually played Dust 1.4. She revealed, but she said that she got 1 kill, and the rest of the time she just got killed.
Yeah, so
which is terrible. You other guys, you shouldn't be so mean to her. All she wanted to do was heal you a little bit, or I don't know, something else helpful. But all you had to do was kill her. So cruel. But anyway, moving on. All right, where were we? So we had the. Oh yes, that's right. We still had some stuff from GDC to discuss from that trailer that we got out of game trailers. Had a couple more things. Did we have anything else we want to touch on there? Something else that we may have missed? Ah, yes, that's right. There was actually somebody pointed out to me, Capacitors, I probably butchered that name, but he's a guy that runs basically a French parallel of our own blog.
Dust514france.blogspot.com,
yeah. And he actually pointed out that in the 2 of the pictures that we've got there, that actually shows the vehicle capacitor before they revealed the existence of it. So that's in there if you wanted to go see it.
Yeah.
Don't think there was anything else actually particularly. I mean, there was somebody said, I personally believe the last screen I've got there is a turret. It's a different type of turret, though.
Yeah.
If you have a look on the mini-map, it's got an arrow instead of the normal circle with a line coming off to the side, which is used for turrets and sentry guns in both EVE and Dust 514, it looks like.
Yeah.
So it looks a bit different. But somebody else said it might be a heavy attack vehicle, but I don't know.
Well,
is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Not really, no. Because if you guys are interested to see dissection itself, it's really huge. It has so many pictures.
22 pictures, I think I've got, with text accompanying each of them.
Yeah, it took like 3 hours to you to write it down.
More? It took me more than 3 hours.
Yeah, well, general writing, actual writing took like 3 hours or so.
No, a little bit more than that. probably 3.5.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, I'm just estimating because I was just waiting. I didn't really want to interfere, with the writing because
don't interrupt me when I'm in the zone. That's a bad idea.
Exactly. And so if you guys want to check it out, we're going to link it on base post. If you're listening to this on YouTube, you're gonna have to click the only link that's going to be over there.
Yep.
And you have all the information that we are talking about right here. So also, huge thanks to Hazar for making the intro music and the video, to assisting me. And it was a pleasure to make yet another episode of Cast 514. Yep.
Now, if any more of you guys out there are coming to FanFest, either hit me up on ILC or send me a message in-game, or there's an email address on the contact page in Dust514 Base. Hit me up and say, I'm going and I would like to say hi or something like that.
Say hi, take pictures, get drunk.
Take pictures, and maybe even depending on... we don't know what the format for teams go as far as the Dust514 tournament team goes, but we might have the Dust514 Base or Dust514 team go in there and kick everybody else out of the park. Because I don't know how it would split the prize, but still, we'll work that out when we get there. I might just pod you all and take it for myself, but I didn't say that.
Yeah.
So yeah, hit me up. If you've got any other questions or comments, hit us up in the comments.
Comments. Yeah. Also Twitter @BroadcastStorm @Gridaris. You can contact us via email, even chat. We're really available to all sorts of communication. So
just find us through one of our many methods that we're online.
Yeah. Thanks guys for listening, and hopefully it was a good episode. It was 1 hour. And...
I think it was all right.
Yeah, for 1 hour.
Wait, over an hour. Yeah. What did we say at first? I think when we were initially discussing, I was thinking, we'll have half-hour episodes, and we'll be struggling to fill that even.
Yeah. How was I mistaken?
That was. I don't think. I think actually, that's right. I was going to say. I actually. Recently, on Saturday, I actually did a lecture for Eve University about Dust514. It was poorly prepared and full of unfortunate technical errors, but it went for about 2 hours. So if you'd like to actually have a listen to that, we'll also provide a link to that in the comments. But for the most part, for anybody that's been following Dust514, it's probably not necessary to listen to it, but anybody that's brand new to it might find some stuff that they didn't previously know.
Yeah.
And there's some interesting questions in there, including a couple I've actually got to take with me to FanFest.
Sounds exciting. Really awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with me again. And hopefully we will have the post-FanFest show as well. And we're going to talk in detail about all the things.
Post-FanFest show? Are you kidding me? I'm planning to... Even if you're asleep, I'm planning to put something up when I'm at FanFest.
Yeah, well, obviously, during the FanFest. But I'm pretty sure...
Even if I have to kidnap a dev to get them on the air.
We're going to do a full live coverage of FanFest. I'm going to sit on my laptop for 3 days. I'm not going to move at all. You are going to post stuff on Dropbox or stuff like that, whatever you want.
Yeah, if you're wondering where I'll probably be putting most of my coverage, I will pretty much try to be constantly on IRC when I'm at Harper, and that will probably be where I put stuff first. Unfortunately, my laptop can't run EVE Online, so I'm not going to be able to go in the in-game channel there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, IRC is probably the best bet if you want to get live coverage. I might see about actually getting to stream some video at some particular points, or I might even, depending on what CCP does with the schedule and depending on when they have devs on and things like that, I might try and barge in on the live cast at some point. I'm definitely, if they're going to be doing a live stream of the roundtable and Dust514 discussion, you'll see me there.
Yeah.
Because I'll be camping out in those rooms.
So make sure you mention that you're Gridaris, because people don't really know how
you
look
like.
Don't worry. It's going to be really, really exciting, and only 9 days to go.
Yes, only 9 days till it starts.
And thanks guys for listening.
Yep.
It was a great episode, hopefully, for you. And
guess we'll see you guys next time.
We will see you guys next time.